Hi, everybody. Let's talk about learner engagement and project-based learning today, shall we? My name is Ginger Lewin, and I work at ESDAC, which is an education service center based in Hutchinson, Kansas. In the bottom corner down there is my social media information, so if there's anything that you have further questions about or that you want to know more about, reach out to me there. I'm just at Ginger Lumen everywhere, and I would be happy, honored to take your questions or comments on any of this. So let's talk about this this engagement and project-based learning. Do any of these sound familiar to you? I tried PBL and it just turned out to be a big mess, or I don't think it's going to work for my age of content, or I don't want to do this and have parents hate me for not doing teaching. I have a fear of trying PBL and failing. I don't want to mess up my kids. What if my kids still don't care? And there are some things that kids just have to learn, even if they hate me and hate it. Do any of those sound familiar to you? I get calls regularly for people who have started project-based learning and they've had some success with their kids and with their content. They've fallen in love with it. They see it as a better way of learning. But after a while, the kids get used to it and they kind of start phoning it in, so to speak. There's a teacher in particular that I'm thinking out with this story where she was teaching world languages and her kids said, "Can't you just give us worksheets and vocab lists like we used to have?" And it broke her heart. She didn't want to do that because she knew that wasn't great learning, but yet that's what her kids were asking for. And she said, "Ginger, what can I do?" And so we worked and got some work. You're going to hear more about Ginny here in a little bit, but I want to know if any of these are about you or a little bit about your story, because that's what I want to touch today. My challenge and my promise to you is that we're going to do these three things. We're going to talk briefly about what PBL is and it isn't. This isn't really a session about what is PBL, because hopefully you've had some training if you're in here. You're just looking for a deeper connection, but just in case, we'll briefly talk about that. And then we're going to talk a lot about hooks and how to hook our kids into this deeper learning. We're going to talk about how to deliver that. And then I'm going to give you two bonuses that are just extra freebies that I think you're really going to appreciate. So you should, at the end of this, be able to craft a hook that's going to hook your kids to say, "I have to know more. I can't wait to get started." And they're going to beg you for more every single time. There's something I want to point out to you in this video section here. If you notice on the screen in the top right-hand corner, there's a camera. You are absolutely welcome, encouraged even, grab your cell phones or grab a screenshot, take a picture of this. When you're talking with staff about what you've been learning or talking about, thinking about, share those pictures with them. You can share the whole video with them here too if you'd like. I'm excited about that. But for sure, those slides, if you think that that might be valuable in your conversations back in your own home. So let's go. What is PBL? There's a lot of conversation about what PBL is and what it isn't. And actually, I have another video all about just that. But when we talk about what is it project? Is it problem? Is it passion? Listen, I think the answer is yes. It's all of those. And there's different variations. But at its core, really, all PBL, no matter which P we're talking about, follows this cycle. We start with some driving question or exciting challenge, which leads to a need to know, ask them to go deeper and practice those skills. They have a lot of choice and voice in the process. We use some hard and soft deadlines to make sure that their quality of product is super high. We're not going to be talking about this last part of this cycle. We're going to be talking a lot about these first two pieces in this video today. And one of the things I love about project-based learning, problem-based learning, passion-based learning, whatever you want to call it, is that in this cycle, these are the skills that our kids are practicing in this cycle. These are the exact same things too that we complain that our kids can't do, right? And when they're practicing them in context, with answering a challenge or solving a problem that they care about, all of a sudden, having these skills matters, and their ears will be much more open to learning about how to get better at these skills. So, true or no? Kids come to us from their crazy lives, from crazy hallways, from dramas, from excitement, and all points in between. How do we, when they walk into our rooms, pull them from that into this? And that's what I want to talk about with hooking our learners. Sometimes in a PBL classroom, when we're hooking it, we might act a little silly. We might seem a little different when we're hooking them. And the kids at first might be a little nervous, but I promise you, this is worth it and it's a good thing. So a hook is what grabs their brain from wherever it's been and funnels it right into right here, right now. So I'm getting ready to share with you 9 hooks. Now, I'm going to drop them one by one because I'm a girl who doesn't want to get overwhelmed by 9 all at once, but I will end here with the 9, this section with 9, then you can take a picture. So don't worry about taking notes right now. Is there a movie or a video game trailer that could show some exciting action about the upcoming topic they're touching? Something that would make them think, wow, that's great. I like the idea of a movie trailer because have you ever gone to the movies before with the preconceived notion of, oh, I don't want to see that movie. That movie's silly. But when you sat in those previews and they showed you the trailer to that movie that you thought, no, that's not going to be good. You watched that trailer and you thought, oh, that's going to be a great movie. They hooked you, right? So how can we create that type of trailer for an upcoming unit or to some challenge, some question that they've got to solve? 3, is the story something that really pulls at our hearts? That, oh, how can we let that go on? One of the reasons why we're not using plastic straws as much in the world, why there's that movement, is because there was a video out there that showed that turtle. Did you see that video? Shows the turtle who had the straw lodged in its nasal passage. That video got shown millions of times, and people finally said plastic straws might not be good for us. Maybe, maybe not. Whether it affected you or not, it affected a lot of people. So is it a story that can pull at our kids' hearts to make them realize this is something important? Is there a piece of the puzzle unsolved? Can you tell like a cliffhanger? Is there a bit of a story that you can share or a scenario or some hook that leaves a piece untold where they say, well, how does this go? You got them hooked if they're asking those sorts of questions. Number 5, maybe you're not sharing the story. Maybe somebody else is invited into the classroom, whether it's in person or whether it's virtually, or it's some organization that's giving your kids a question or a challenge. Can you bring that in? It breaks up the routine. If you're the one usually delivering the hooks and the questions and the scenarios, if you have somebody else do it, it makes things a little bit different. Introduces novelty, which we know the brain craves novelty. Maybe somebody's hiring us to do a job. Maybe we'll be architects. Maybe we'll be, I don't know, what could they be that would help them get into your challenge and practice what they might want to try later in life? Maybe we're saving somebody's life. Maybe we're saving the world. There's a giant asteroid coming at the Earth. What sort of things should we do in order to save the people? That puts a little different stakes and scenario at it, because are there asteroids coming at the Earth? They've done it before. You know, the asteroids hit the Earth before and caused change. What's to say they wouldn't again? So how can we bring this to life for them? And then 9, notice the camera up there. Go ahead and capture this so you have all 9 at once. Just make sure that it's something that matters to them, something that matters in the world. How can you hook them in with that sort of work? So I want us to pause, and you can pause the video right now. Think about your kids and think about a unit that you're going to be teaching later this year, right? Which of those hooks that we just talked about might seem like they might be fun for your kids? Pause and think about that for a little bit. When you're ready, you can start the video again. So which of these seem a little scary for you to pull off? It's okay. You don't have to do every single one, and you don't have to know everything. Maybe one where it talks about a movie trailer and you think, gosh, that would be great. but I don't know how to make videos, or I only know how to make videos that it's a really complicated way. You know, we can make videos nowadays. There are tools out there that make it very, well, at least more simple for the beginner and for the very busy teacher who's maybe not a beginner, but who doesn't have a length of time to spend on this sort of thing. You don't have to know everything. Look around your school. Are there teachers who know how to do this already? If they're not around your school, then reach out to your professional learning network on Twitter or Facebook and ask them for help. If you don't have a professional learning network there, first of all, get one. But if you don't, reach out to me and I'll absolutely help you figure out some tools that are more simple to use that can create really delicious hooks for your kids. By the way, it doesn't have to be a video, but if that's something, that was one of the examples I had, maybe you don't know how to do that. Any of these scenarios, if you need help, reach out. You don't have to know it all. So let's talk about delivering the hook. We're going to shift gears briefly. You've got some things, but how would do they walk into the room and I hit play on a video, or do they walk into the room and I just start talking to them? How can I deliver the hook to where it's done in a way that is absolutely delicious? I'm going to give you 5 thoughts for that. Maybe it's a scenario story. One of my favorite stories to talk about with kids and Vikings is there's a story that talks about a discovered runestone that was discovered in Minnesota. Now, if they're Googling it, because I do have some kids from time to time, when I start telling a story, they're like, is this a real story or not? And they start Googling quickly. Is she telling us a fib? And it's a real story. And I might embellish it from here or there on little pieces of it. But the idea is that it is rooted somewhere in true story and that they can find it. And it makes it even more delicious, right? Maybe a different way is you could find a video. Maybe you don't even make a video. You just find a video that's already made out there by somebody. Be careful. Not just any video from YouTube is going to work. How do you know that it's going to hook your kids? Is it too long? Is it too short? Is it something that's not quite aimed at what you need them to? Then how do you shift it to where it can be still useful? Be careful. There's a lot of great videos out there that you could just straight grab and show. And there are some that wouldn't do the job you want it to get done. Another way is, well, I mentioned this before, how can you get someone else in to tell the story? My kids needed to not hear me tell another story. They'd been used to me launching a lot of PBLs, and it started to get routine, and they started, oh, here she is, another unit going on. And so I really shifted things up, and I told them that the Secretary of the UN is going to be coming in and talking with our kids this morning. And I told them the day before that they were going to, so make sure you're dressed nice. And they dressed in their nicest wear. And pretty soon the video pops up and they look at it and that's Colby's mom. And it was actually a parent. It wasn't the Secretary of the UN. But the idea was that put a little excitement, a little interest, and she delivered it as if she would have been the Secretary of the UN. She was at home. She was dressed in a suit from the waist. From the waist up is all we saw anyway. She read the little paragraph that I had emailed to her and said, please read this to our kids. And at the end of it, 3-4 minutes, she said, good luck, Mrs. Lumen and students, and I'll see you later. What that did is it changed it up a little bit. Yeah, they knew it was Colby's mom, and yes, they knew it wasn't a real scenario, but it was novel and it was interesting, and they're willing to go along with it. So I had her live. She could have come in as a video. I could have had it on Zoom or Skype or Google Hangouts or any of those things, or I could have her come in through FaceTime. There are a myriad of possibilities in getting other people to your classroom. In person is great. Sometimes in person takes a little too long. The hook, quick, in, out, get them hooked, and now let's start going. Another way, maybe it's a crime scene investigation, where you go into another classroom, something's set up, or you leave the school and you've gone outside, or you've gone to another place downtown. I don't know. How can you set up a scenario where they come in and they're now immersed in the problem? Isn't that exciting to think about? And then last of our 5, go pro level on this. Go ahead and ramp it up for yourself. Can you get a kid involved in the scenario as your accomplice? Or maybe the kid is the storyteller. Hey, I had a situation happen, and who knows? Maybe it's older students hooking younger students into their PBL. How can we get kids involved in this? I call that a pro level hook, because this can get complicated real fast, but it introduces another element of novelty, of interest, that can keep them wanting more. So pause your video here for a little bit and think about, who is the best storyteller in your community? Is it you, or is it someone else? Because if you're not the person who has a ta-da personality, maybe you're not the best person to share the story, and it's okay. Not all of us are like that. So who would be best? Think about that for a moment. As we look into the cycle of project-based learning, starting out with the driving question or that exciting challenge, think about, what's the difference between a hook and a driving question? Remember, I talked about the driving question here. What's the difference between a hook and a driving question? Because they're not the same thing. Let's talk about that briefly. A hook takes kids' brains from wherever they are in the world and brings it right here to right now. And then when we start shifting into the driving question, KADQ is my fancy way of saying a kick-ass driving question. So driving question. So the hook takes us and filters us down into the driving question. So where on this cycle does the hook fit? That's right, it's like a 0.5, right? The hook is here. We come up with a great hook that leads to the driving question. I like to think about it, in that 5-paragraph essay format. How we do is the reader's brain is out in the world, and we have a first statement that funnels down, and gets really to a bam, our thesis statement. That's our driving question. So the hook filters us down to the bam, the driving question, and then we're into the work and we're going with that. So if we think about it like that, the hook to the driving question makes good sense. So let's think about your next steps. I would challenge you to create a hook that's going to grab your kids into your PBL challenge. What's something that you're going to be teaching later down the road, and how can you put a hook together, and how will that hook be delivered, in what sort of way? And as you're doing that, I want you to think again, how do you know that this event is going to hook your kids? It's not just somebody's generic kids, the kids that are in your classroom in front of you right now. And maybe you've got most kids who'll come with you on everything. Maybe you've got enough PBL where they're like, yeah, I'm excited, but you've still got 1 or 2 kids who are just like, whatever. How can you build a hook that's aimed directly between their eyes or to their hearts, however you need to connect to those kids, because the others are going to come along anyway. I'm dropping that to you as a challenge to think about right now. And if you want to know, want even more information about hooks, you can go to this URL and dive in and look at different options and scenarios for hooking our kids. Now, I told you at the very beginning, though, there was going to be a bonus, right? Here's your bonus. Remember I told you about Jenny and that world language teacher? She had hooks going, but the kids still didn't care. I gave her 2 hard strategies to ramp up the kids' engagement. She had the hooks happening. There was something else that was missing. If you want to know, go to gingerlumen.com/high stakes. I'll give you a hint. Authentic audience and publication. That matters. That absolute way there, you got them hooked from the beginning, and then how do you keep them to where the end product is the highest possible quality you can get? Go in there and check out that blog post. Friends, it's time for the test. And when I say a test, it's not a test for you, it's a test for me. So you get to grade me. I said that my challenge to you, my promise to you today, was to clarify what PBL is and isn't, right? It's that learning by doing cycle, and that creates a hook for your students. We're going to create that. Did you get a chance to think about different types of hooks and how they'll be delivered? And I delivered a bonus to you. If I didn't, please reach out and let me know. And if I did, yay, congratulations. I can't wait to see what your hooks are going to be for your kids. Think about those passions, those personal interests of them, not you and me. We're teacher nerds. We love our content. I love the War of 1812. Do my kids? So how do I hook them into something that matters to them right now? Not to something that happens later on down the road for them, but for right now matters to them. That's our challenge. And that's that. If it was easy, I'd do it for you. You could do it for me. But as it is, we need to think about who's in front of us. Folks, this is me. I appreciate your time. Reach out to me at Ginger Lumen if you want to, over on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or on Snapchat. I'm just about everywhere. You can also find me on my websites if you want to learn more about project-based learning and about how to work this with our kids. Thanks for spending some time with me today.